I'm super excited that you guys are here today because you're going to be so blessed by today's guest. Today we're going to be talking about Pinterest. Pinterest is one of those platforms. In fact, it's probably one of the only platforms left where you can still get free reach, y'all. And so if you are interested in getting great traffic, leveraging the power of a social platform without paying for it, then you are in the right place, because we're going to be talking about Pinterest and how you can actually do that today. We have a special guest that is all things Pinterest. And if you're like me, until about, I don't know, probably 6 or 8 months ago, when we seriously got focused on Pinterest, when we realized by accident that we were getting a lot of traffic from Pinterest, and we're like, oh, maybe we need to be paying attention. So good morning. Good morning. As you guys are coming in, just give me a shout out. Where in the world are you? So good morning, Edward, and love seeing you guys. And Paul, you guys are on all of my live streams. I appreciate you so much. So like I say, just give me a shout out. Where in the world are you? And how are you this morning? What did you do this weekend? Like, tell me something. Like, what'd you guys do? We did almost nothing. Yeah, almost nothing. Like some weekends are like that, right? All right. So we've got Lisa from Fredericksburg. That did not want to roll off my tongue this morning. Hey, Pat, good to see you. Memphis, Tennessee. We've got UK in the house. Excellent. So Judith is from the UK. Northern Canada. Edward's from Northern Canada. Jamie is from Oregon. Welcome. And if you are brand new and you're like, well, who is this person? One, I'd like to introduce myself, and I'd love for you to introduce yourself. So if you're brand new, just drop in #new in the comments. My name is Kim Garst. I am an online business strategist, which is just a fancy way of saying I love to help people make more money in their business, their online business in particular. I've owned an online business for almost 30 years. Dating myself, I know. And I've built multiple 7-figure businesses in that time frame. So I know a tad bit of things, all things online marketing in particular. And I love sharing my knowledge. And I love bringing other people who have amazing knowledge and success and strategies to share. Hence the Marketing That Grows Your Business show, which is where you guys are. So we have, like I say, just a few more guys. Our special guest is in the comments. So say hey to Laura. I'm going to bring her on in just a moment. I want to share just a few things with you. If you've been on my shows before, you know that we do giveaways. Every week we have some giveaways. And this week, since we are talking Pinterest, we're going to do one of the things that you guys requested way back. You remember when we did the Pinterest challenge like several months back, and we had this amazing mug designed, and we weren't prepared at that point to sell it. It was just for giveaways and things of that nature. Well, now we are not only are we going to give it away today, 2 of them, but we are in a position now to sell them too. So we're excited about this. So we're going to give 2 of, oops, wrong mug. Hang on. Right mug. Here we go. So pinning takes me to my happy place. We're going to be giving away 2 of these today, y'all. And super cute mug. If you're, want to even drink your wine out of the, coffee mug while you are pinning, you're going to feel super awesome about it because it's going to make you happy. It's going to make you smile. How do you win? You win by sharing your aha moments. I always get my fingers wrong. You'd think every week if I did this that I would get it right, but I never seem to get my fingers right out the gate. But if you will drop in the area down under your aha moments, that's things that you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. Or you knew it, but you needed to rehear it. Drop those in. That's how we pick our winners. Rhonda on my team, she's in the comments. She will be pulling those out. She puts them into this wheel thing that, draws all the winners. We'll announce the winners at the end. Okay. So that's how you win this amazing Pinterest mug, is dropping in those aha moments, #aha. That's what I meant to say. Now, I have one more favor. If you guys love this, don't forget to drop in your emojis. If you're on your phones, they're easy to drop in the emojis. And if you know somebody that would get value from learning how to leverage the power of Pinterest, can you either tag them in that area down below or sprinkle this out by hitting that S button? Okay. So see how clever I was by not saying the word? So that Facebook doesn't say, hey, she said the word, and we're not going to put more people in her, give more people to her to see this show, right? So it's a little strategy. Sorry. Okay, now I want to, this is getting us focused, bringing in our guest, because I want to spend the majority of today talking about Pinterest. So our special guest today is Laura Rike. I hope I'm saying that right. Laura is a Pinterest strategist who helps high-performing business owners implement content growth plans, outsources their visibility, and steadily grow their monthly revenue through her signature Growth to Greatness framework with done-for-you services and course packages. So you guys put your hands together for Laura. Hey, Laura. Wait, let me get you in here. Hang on. There we go. Hey. So
thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited that you are here. So I'm just showing in the getting down to the bottom of the comments here. And I wanted to make sure everybody was, yep, there we go. I see some people saying, welcome, welcome. Okay, Pinterest. So I want to share a little story with everybody before we get started. Y'all, I don't remember exactly who recommended Laura to me, but Laura came to my attention somehow. Well, I'm not exactly sure how, but she really got my attention when I realized, purely by accident, that she is currently doing some marketing for ClickFunnels. Now, some of you may have heard of that, infamous ClickFunnels brand, right? It's a big deal. They're a big deal. And that's a little bit of an aside. What the story that really is when I was doing some research around Pinterest and tools not long ago, I realized that ClickFunnels has immense amounts of traffic. Like they were at the top of the stratosphere when it came to Pinterest traffic. They get over 10 million views a month. Now we're going to talk about metrics and does that matter, but that's a lot of traffic. And guess who's responsible for that? This lady. So I'm just saying, y'all are in the right place if you're interested in figuring out how to do or to get a lot more traffic around Pinterest. So Laura, talk to us a little bit about how did you get started with Pinterest?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. That was an amazing introduction. And I mean, I really got started with Pinterest on a whim, honestly. So I actually went to school for graphic design. And then from that took a virtual internship doing a little bit of graphic design and some VA work. And I found out that I could stay home with, back then, my one child that I had, who was 1 year old. And I was like, this is awesome. So I went into being a VA and I got really burnt out. My one oldest son actually came to me one time and said, like, you're always on your computer, you're always on your device, you're always working. And I just hated it. And so I started kind of looking to see, like, what was I doing that could couple my love for graphic design and like focus on one area that really made me happy and was able to really serve my clients well. And I found out that Pinterest was doing really well with that. And my love for design and Pinterest kind of merged. So it was a little scary at first to jump from, I can help you with anything and come to me and all that. But then I started focusing only on Pinterest and it was amazing. The results for my clients were amazing. I have time for my family. So I guess I went from being a VA to going rogue and leveling down to only Pinterest.
No, there's such a powerful business lesson in what you just said. So I want to like key in on it just for a second, because I think lots of times when we are, experts at things, it's probably been one of my biggest struggles is, yeah, I can help with that. Oh yeah, I can. And the reality is we can, but the problem becomes we're so spread out that we really struggle to do all things well.
Yeah.
If you don't focus in and figure out what your, niche down, they say the riches are in the niches, or the niches, or whichever way I think when you say riches in that context, you have to go with it, rhyming, right? Or the riches are in the niches. But there's power in that lesson, is that find your focus and then get really good at it, because then you can really make your business shine, as well as how you end up serving others if that's your business model.
Yeah.
So I love that. And I wanted to just highlight that real quick, because I bet there's people that are listening that are potentially not, maybe they're trying to do all things and not doing all things well, or they haven't realized the power of really focusing in on what you said something else that I really wanted to key in on, something that made you happy.
Yeah. Yep. Something I love doing. I don't have a problem doing with a 2-month-old on my hip. And like, it's just, it was a night and day difference for my family and everything like that. And I'm not going to lie, it was not easy. I teetered. I went back and forth. So it's not going to be an overnight flip for those of you that are on the fence, but it really does help. It really does in many areas.
Yeah. And by the way, she just said something else. She's got a brand new little one, y'all, a 2-month-old baby, and she still got thriving. Like, she had put things in place. She had systems, she had a team, and she's been able to maintain her business while having a new little one. So she's got 3 now, 3 children, and still thriving, y'all. So it can be done. It can be done.
Yeah.
So let's talk about why Pinterest now. I think that's super important in the context of what's happening in the social space. So what if you were to tell people, hey, whoa, stop and think about this for a second. Pinterest is so much more powerful today, and you need to focus there. How would you talk about that to somebody who might not be super active on Pinterest?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing is people think of Pinterest still as social media, when really it's more of a search platform, right? And so we spend all this time putting out all this content, and we are putting our blood, sweat, and tears into this content. And I don't mean just blogs. I mean Facebook posts, live streams, right? Like YouTube videos. And you do all this work and you post it to social, and you may get some comments, some interaction, but you have to turn around and figure out what's next. And the beauty of Pinterest is it's a search platform. So people are going to it looking for solutions, looking for products, looking for that next step. So you're already getting past that hurdle of, do I need this? Can this help me? Because they're already searching for it, right? And so you're able to bring more visibility and more brand awareness to content that you've already put the work into. And we can see that when we do our analytics. We have people that put content out there 2 years ago and then repurposed it, let's say for this video's sake, in January. And now in March, they're still seeing traffic from something they did in January on Pinterest. So it's amazing to see the amount of work that you put into something months, years later, still bringing in that traffic and brand awareness.
So good. So good. Oh, hang on. Let me get us both in here. Hang on. There we go. Clicking the right buttons here. So I love how you articulated that. So I've been telling everybody, I'm like, guys, it doesn't matter how many followers you have on Pinterest. It's because people are searching for you, but you said it so much more eloquently in the context of the hurdle, that first barrier. You don't have to make them like you before they find your content and interact with your content. And I noticed that we had a comment here from Mark. He said, I must admit, I still don't get it. And I think the thing that we have to embrace as business owners is, as long as we have something that people are searching for and they find you, there's a traffic source for that. And it's not a qualifier. We don't have to be a follower. They don't have to be a fan if you're on Facebook. It's the same with YouTube. Think of it in the context of YouTube. YouTube is a video search engine, right?
Yeah.
Pinterest is mostly image. There is video there as well. But if you can start to think about that in your mind, like, okay, it's kind of like a YouTube, in the sense that people are searching for content and finding content, and they don't have to be followers or fans.
Yeah.
So I want to share. You remember I told you about how much traffic that ClickFunnels is getting on a monthly basis, thanks to Laura. And they don't have a massive amount of followers, y'all. They have less than 30,000 followers on Pinterest, and yet they're getting 10 million views a month. Why? It's because people are searching for content that they have. It's getting served up to them, and they're engaging and engaging with that content. Super important. One other thing I want to ask real quick, because I want to circle back to it, because I think there's a lot of value in it, Laura. You talked about the value that content has on Pinterest from a lifespan perspective.
Yeah.
Can you enlarge on that a little bit? Because I think that that's the true value, in the sense that, we can create content, or content can circle back. It has a longer lifespan. So anyway, I won't put words into your mouth.
No, that's totally fine. Yeah. So I love it in the mode of repurposing, right? There's so many different ways to put content out there to educate, to help inform, to create that relationship with your audience. And so you think about the different places where you're having conversations that are leading to the end goal for your business or your blog. And that's where you want to use Pinterest to send that traffic to. So it's like the top of the funnel, where you could have a Facebook post that goes into detail about a service that you provide as a service-based business, right? And you maybe got 2 comments and 10 likes on it, and you did it in January. Well, maybe now you're coming up to the spot where you want more traffic to that service. And you know that you had a lot of conversations with people in Messenger, maybe, let's say, about that post, and you were able to convert some sales to that service. That's a good post to use Pinterest as the top of the funnel to send people back to, because you already have it out there. You already know it's working. You already know it's providing that value to your audience. And so now you're just going to go on Pinterest, take a minute and see, okay, say the service was Facebook Lives, right? How to do a Facebook Live confidently. So then you're going to go to Pinterest and you're going to start searching live video, video marketing. You're going to search for a number of different things to see what keywords are people searching for. What should I be using in my pin for Pinterest to be able to get people to click and go back to what I know already converts?
So good. So good. So I think sometimes people think that their person or their buyer is not on Pinterest. So what type of buyers, in your opinion, are on Pinterest? Like, I know a lot of times people think that Pinterest is a, woman, female dominated space. What's your take on that? Are you finding that to be true, in other words?
So, I mean, statistically, yeah, Pinterest is a female-based type platform, but that's just because of the way it started, right? So they had all this stats, all these stats on Pinterest and how it was primarily women-based and things like that. But if you look at it, so we talked about how it could be like YouTube. I also like to make it a reference to Google, right? Because your website, your content isn't going to have the domain authority that Pinterest does. And so if you use Pinterest like Google, then you can actually be found on Google for your Pinterest pins and your profile and things like that. So you can attract people no matter what type of niche you're in, right? I have clients that I've worked with where we do the management for them. ClickFunnels is one of them. We have career coaches on there. We have teachers on there. I mean, the span of different things. We have Etsy shop owners. There's a number of different things that you can do on the platform. You just have to take the time to research what people are searching for. So it's like if you go to Google and you're searching for a solution, people are using Pinterest the same way. So it's not necessarily, is it only female based? Is it only for products? It's exponential as long as you're focusing on the terms that you're using.
So good. So good. One thing I wanted to take a minute, because you were talking about live streaming as an example, and I wanted to take a minute and give a special shout out to our sponsor for today's show. This is my new go-to platform for live streaming to multiple social media channels at the same time. And right now we are live on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. I know we just had a question over on LinkedIn about, can you watch this video and share this video later? Absolutely. It's going to be in the feed there. Feel free to share it. With Restream as your tool of choice, you can have multiple people join you as guests. They have a super easy to use interface for doing cool transitions, bringing up comments and customized text on the screen, and seamlessly bringing in our guests. So you guys have been seeing, I've been going back and forth with Laura. You can also brand your live shows with cool show overlays. This is the perfect platform for new and experienced creators alike. And you can go to kimgarst.com/Restream or simply click on the link in the comments to get $10 off of your first month. So definitely give it a go. I wanted to slide that in there because we just talked about live stream as an option. It made a lot of sense in the context there. So, all right. So, Laura, let's talk a little bit about the Pinterest algorithm, because you were talking about search and going, doing a little research, finding out what people are searching for. And you can do that on Pinterest too. You can just type in search terms at the top and it'll give you alternative things that people are searching for. But how does the algorithm on Pinterest work? I mean, and what should we focus on when we're trying to get our content seen at the top of the feed?
Yeah. So one of the things that I do want to address too, I'm not sure if it's Ellie or Elle, but was questioning when I mentioned linking to Facebook post or to a blog post, right? So you can link to anything that has a URL. We've been testing out for my clients and my course students linking to TikTok videos. What I want you to consider is, where do you have the content that actually converts? And by converts, I mean email signups, sales, conversations that turn into something more, right? So think about that first before you think about, where should I link, right? Should I be linking to a Facebook post versus a blog post? And the other thing is you can link to both, right? Because they're both content sources. So if you have a post on Facebook that leads into a blog post and you also have a blog post, do both, right? And test. What I say is not gold. Take it with a grain of salt. Test for your own brand. Test everything and find what works. So I just want to make sure I say that first since they were asking.
Yes, I'm so glad you picked up on and answered that question. We had another guest on one time around Pinterest, and something she said really with me. And she said that, social media is a major petri dish. Everything should be tested. I think sometimes we get a little bit lazy and we just want somebody to tell us what to do and we want it to work. And the reality is, like Laura said, is, what might work for one of her clients or for herself might not work for you. So and same for me. So we have to do the work. We have to sometimes do the testing to make sure that if you learn a great strategy, throw it out there and see what works for me. And one of the things that you were talking about is anything that has a URL. So we get tons of traffic to my blog content. And then we retarget that using Facebook ads for specific things. So I just thought I'd share that too.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Going back to, thank you so much for answering that question, because I thought that was so important. When it comes though to people like understanding how the algorithm works with Pinterest, tell us a little bit about how that works.
Yeah, so it leads into another question that we had in here is like, how do you track what converts? How do you know what's going to make it on the algorithm, right? And we talked about this with ClickFunnels, is that they had 10 million monthly viewers. And that's an amazing number. And I love that shows for people. But the problem really is million monthly viewers don't lead to sales, right? They're not putting money in the bank account. And so I want you to focus on the back end. Pinterest does an amazing job with their analytics. So if you have a business account, you can see how many sessions you're getting from a pin, what pin image or video is bringing in the most amount of clicks to where you want them to go. There's a number of different things on that back end. And so really what I want you to focus on is, one, make sure your design is legible and brand cohesive for your pin or video that you're going to put up there. Make sure that you are always conversational and provide value in everything you do on that platform, because they really want the tone in your description, in your pin design, and everything to be conversational more than like, you need to click because you're going to get this. Like, actually talk to them like a human being. And then make sure you have the keywords in there that people are searching for. So when you have those three things, then you can go into the analytics and you can search by all the pins that you've put up there ever on the platform. You can search by what's been done in the last 30 days. You can search by impressions, meaning what has people looked at but not actually clicked through the pin image, because then you can go down this road of if this, then that, right? So if they looked at the pin closer, but they didn't actually click through to where you wanted them to go, what's going on the pin design? What's going on in the description? Are you targeting the right audience, right? And if they did click through, but you're not getting the lead or the sale that you want, then again, are you targeting the right audience? What's on that landing page or that content to make them purchase or help them understand more that you want their email address, or that you can really truly provide value to them, and make sure that it's cohesive with what you put on the pin and in your description, so that they understand the full step of what they're supposed to do next. I like to tell a fun story too, Kim. You'll like this one. Is I always tell people, make sure you're having that conversation, but tell people what is next. Because it's like if I go downstairs to the living room, right? My husband can be down there with the kids, and I come down there and there are toys everywhere and there's laundry everywhere. And it just drives me nuts. And I could be down there and I could get so frustrated that he didn't pick anything up. But he doesn't know that I wanted the living room picked up if I didn't tell him. So it's the same thing with your call to action and your Pinterest strategy, right? If you're not telling them in every step, gently nudging them, telling them what you want them to do, they're not going to take action because they're not mind readers. My husband's not a mind reader. He doesn't know that I like the living room clean when I come downstairs for dinner, right? Like that's just not a thing unless I say, hey, hun, can you help me do the laundry, right? So just make sure that you guys are not just looking at one piece of the puzzle, but you're looking at all the steps that are needed to have that fluid strategy to keep leading people through that process. And then when you're testing and looking at the back end analytics, look at what's happening and then figure out what can be next. How can I tweak? What can I improve upon? And then constantly always have that mindset of, I can do better. What can change? Because then that's really when you're going to start serving your clients the best.
So good. So good. I think the whole process of the call to actions, as everybody calls them, from a marketing perspective, is so important. I think sometimes we think that we put something out there and people intuitively know what to do. And it seems ridiculous that, well, let me back up for a second. Most people do know what to do. And it seems weird in our heads that we have to tell them what to do, but we have to tell them what to do or they don't take action. It is so interesting how that dynamic works. And I'm just curious, as I just want to query the audience real quick. What are you guys currently using Pinterest in I will call it a recreational, just going on and checking things out, or are you using it for your business and for marketing? I'm really curious as to where you feel like you are right now. Probably should have asked that question at the beginning, but no judgment, because hopefully by the time we are through today, if you are in the recreational camp, you're no longer going to be there. You're going to be like, I got to get on Pinterest. I've got to get focused because my business needs Pinterest. Who doesn't need free traffic? I mean, I'm just saying, put your hand up if you do need free traffic rather. So Chuck is saying recreation. We have some saying both. Edward is saying both. And let's see, Ellie is saying both. Good. Okay. So some of you guys are in both camps. I'm definitely in both. I was probably more I used it mostly as a search engine before until I got really intentional. When I realized I was getting all this traffic by accident, I didn't even realize I was, I didn't really have a cohesive strategy around Pinterest. So we've totally changed that dynamic. I see some are saying, I search for graphics, McLee. I hope I'm Malia. I bet that's how you say that. I'm so sorry. It took me a minute to process that through my brain. I definitely use it for that too. Searching for content and that kind of thing. Yeah. Okay, so when it comes to what's working now, Pinterest has changed a lot. It's traditionally been just a graphic search engine, right? Where you just put static images up and you drive traffic with a URL somewhere. But there's a lot of new opportunity on Pinterest, with stories and video pins and things like that. Let's just break that down a little bit. Maybe talk about each one separately, and anything else you want to talk if you see other opportunities. But story pins kind of intrigue me right now, and a lot of the platforms have story pins, even though they call them different things. Twitter calls them fleets. Obviously, Instagram stories, but the short form content on Pinterest, their stories. What are you seeing as it relates to that? Are they working? Is it a different style of content that's needed for that? What's your take on it? Give people some strategies, all the goodies.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so I'm going to tackle story pins in 1 second. 2 things that I'm going to cover because I am multitasked and I'm looking at some of the questions. So Adrian, I see your question about what about business consulting? And a lot of people have asked, what about my niche? What about this, right? And what I want to tell you guys is go to Pinterest. on your phone or on your desktop, go to the top search bar and just start typing in things, right? Start seeing what is pulling up. If you type in business consulting and you see content that you can talk to or you already have, then 1,000,000% you should be on the platform using it for your business. Okay. So that's question number 1 that I just wanted a quick answer. And then Debbie, the challenge with Pinterest now is that they're taking product images with their sponsored brands. That is a glitch that's happening on the platform. There is a workaround to get that removed. So if you are not a product-based business, you can actually disable product tagging in your account. If you have questions on that, feel free to just send me a message, but then it won't automatically do that tagging for you. So there is a workaround on that. So Pinterest stories, I know Kim, you said is short form content on all the other social platforms. The amazing thing about it right now, though, is even though it's considered short form content, you have so much more for Pinterest to be able to tell a longer story. So we were talking about how you have to tell them the next step and you have to give them that value and have a conversation, right? With Pinterest stories, they don't go away. They don't disappear. And you can have a number of different images that kind of just go through what you want to tell them. So maybe you're walking them through the back end of how you create a product. Maybe you're educating them on a certain piece, right? So like on my stories, if I can pull it up quick enough while I'm talking here, what we do is I'll walk through and give them more information. So how to convert Pinterest visitors, right? And all they have to do is keep tapping through and I'm telling them a longer story because I have more that I can put on these pin images to provide more value and give them more education than on one pin design, right? And it's all done on that same piece. Now, with story pins, you can't link to a URL right now like you can on a regular pin. So they have this that comes up at the end. And if I wasn't already, like if this wasn't my account, it would say follow, right? And I can just click follow. And so that's really cool because they're also focusing now on growing those accounts so that more people see. So then when it's up at the top here, you can see all these new people. And if you're not following them, once you go through their stories, then you can start following them if you like their content and you'll start seeing all their static pins as well. So it's a really cool way to add it into your strategy to grow a different side of your account to bring in more visibility, right? So I'm using that as like a stepping stone in the funnel to be able to widen the brand awareness for my account on the platform. The next cool thing though is that they're prioritizing certain things now. So story pins get more priority than static pins. Next comes video and then comes static. So what does that mean for you guys? Do all 3 of them, right? Make sure, like I said earlier, you have a fluid account or fluid strategy for your account, meaning you want to keep using each of the options that they give you and testing how that can help your long-term goal and strategy.
Such wicked smart strategy there. So let me dig into that story thing because I didn't realize that stories, and this is terrible to admit this out loud that I didn't know this, but I didn't know that they lived on. So how long? I mean, do they disappear out of They don't. So you could just, oh my gosh, I did not know that. So I'm so excited about that. That's aha moment. I dropped it in. That was my aha moment. I love when I learn something. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. And I loved how you broke down the priority of content, how Pinterest is giving certain priority to things, which means right now stories are a huge opportunity for people, and not many people, in my opinion, I haven't seen a lot of people really embracing them yet. So there's a huge opportunity, I think, to really leverage Pinterest in that capacity. Video pins. Let's talk about video pins real quick. What are you seeing with video pins? And I do want to talk about tools in a minute too, but I don't want to necessarily get into that too much unless you want to. But video pins, should we be doing them?
Yeah. And so here's a tip for anybody that doesn't do video like this, like face-to-face video, right? Even for me now, it's hard to get on video with a 2-month-old. My husband has her downstairs. Thankfully, he's home today. But I've done video pins where it's animated text, right? And so it's a moving pin that you download as an MP4 and you can still upload as a video pin. On the back end, when you upload videos, whether it's this type of video, whether it's an animated GIF type of video pin, you have more ability to tag keywords and phrases than you do a story pin or a static pin. So you have a broader range where you can reach more people by using a video pin. Video pins do link as well to where you want them to go. So you are able to add a URL. What I've done before a lot in the past that has worked really well is I will take a platform that helps me kind of grab this video. So like I'm in the center, right? And so between my arms would crop the video, and then it's that standard 2:3 size for a video pin. And I will just grab a 10-15 second snippet that gives a really good tip from my live stream. And I will upload that as a video pin to Pinterest. Then in the description, I will tell them that if they click through, they'll be able to actually hear the full video by clicking through. And again, if we're repurposing, I have that video on my blog, I have it on YouTube, and I have it on my Facebook page, right? So that's 3 different URLs of where I can send people. That's 3 different opportunities to capture more traffic and more attention for my brand. So that's one way to use it. Again, if you're not doing video, but you still want to capture in on that, you can do behind the scenes. Like if you're an Etsy shop owner and you're using a Cricut, right? Maybe grab a quick video, 10 seconds of your Cricut doing a new design. Put that up and lead back to your store. Maybe you want to give them a little bit more about your brand in a static pin that has moving text that flies in and out, and use that to go back to a blog post, right? Those are different ways to be able to incorporate video pins without actually having to do a face-to-face video.
And, you know, a couple of things I noticed, and I'm going to ask one of the questions in the different framework than I think 𝓴𝓷𝓸𝔀 is asking, would you create 3 video pins with each having a different URL? That's kind of my question, and I think it'll answer. Is you talked about having repurposing your videos and, you know, using 3 different opportunities to drive people to potentially three different places. So are you, one of the things that I think is fascinating about Pinterest and where they are right now is they're wanting fresh content. So my question is, that's an opportunity to create 3 different opportunities, fresh content, if you will, that's going to 3 different places and Facebook, sorry, didn't mean to say Facebook. So Pinterest is seeing that as 3 different unique opportunities. And technically it's all the same content, y'all. So even though it's 3 touch points, I think that's super important. So you're sending people, you're taking that small video, you're sending them to Instagram, potentially to Facebook, and maybe somewhere else too. So
correct. So to hit on that point, if you're sending them to YouTube, you can create 2, 3, 4 different pin images going to, say, Laura Rike talks about Pinterest on YouTube. And then Laura Rike talks about Pinterest on Kim Garst's Facebook page. You can do 2, 3, 4 different images leading to that Facebook Live. Then if this goes on Kim's website, we can go to that URL on that website. That's fresh content, and you can do 2, 3, 4, 5 different images for that as well. So potentially, say we did 5 different pin images for each URL, that's 15 different pins you have right there for that one piece of content that you already created. So that's why repurposing is so huge with this, because Pinterest will see that as all fresh content. And that's really what they're pushing for, is fresh pins. And so there's each different URL is considered fresh. And if you're creating different images and different descriptions to talk to different audiences, that's considered fresh as well. So you have multiple opportunities for the one piece of content that you're already creating.
So good. So, it's so funny because I was telling Laura when we first started before pre-show, is that the conversation always takes me somewhere different. I didn't even have repurposing on my list, but that is such gold, y'all. I hope you really captured that, took a note on that. If you didn't, please go back and listen to it, because that's such powerful, such a powerful strategy, not only in the context of the strategy itself, but basically because Pinterest is operating under this new fresh content thing now. Whereas in the past, we could just repin a bunch of stuff and it worked. You can't necessarily do that anymore. So that is one of my questions. How often should we be pinning? I think a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, this sounds great, but I don't know. Can I do this?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's something that I try to teach people in my course too, is within my framework, I don't want you to think that you have to pin 25 times a day. And I don't want you to think that you have to create 10 different images for every single piece of content you put out there, right? There's really a fine line between how many images you can do for that one URL before it becomes spammy. But think about how much content do you have right now, right? Facebook, Instagram, blog, landing pages, blog posts. I think I said that. IGTV, Facebook Lives, YouTube. Think about where all that content is. If you know that you have enough content to do one pin every single day, then take time to sit down and schedule out for a week, let's say, right? And so then you spend a half hour to an hour at the beginning of the week, schedule out that for the week, and then be done. The platform really focuses on consistency. So if you know, great, I can do one pin a day, no problem, start there. If you have loads of content, like Kim has been doing this show forever, I have a blog that I've been doing for years, right? Then start at 5 pins, start at 10 pins, but find where you think personally you can stay consistent with it. Because what I want you to do is stay consistent for 90 days. If you can go for 90 days, you're going to create that habit, for one. And for two, you're going to start seeing those results, whether it's growth in the account, whether it's the impressions, whether it's the sessions back to your website. Make sure that you stay consistent on the platform, and then you're going to start to see that coming back towards you in terms of ROI, depending on what you're tracking. So it's not a concrete pin 1 time a day, pin 20 times a day, but it's do what works for you and do it consistently. Don't do it for a couple weeks and be like, I've gotten 5 impressions on my pins. Keep going, keep testing, keep trying, right? Because it's going to take a little bit of legwork before you get up to that point.
I kind of like to refer to Pinterest as a slow burn. You have to consistently create content, but the good news is the fire doesn't go out, y'all.
Ooh, I like that. So I've related it to the stock market, right?
Yes.
So the stock market goes up and down, but you don't see people pulling everything out and never going back in. They go with the ebbs and flows. They go with the ups and downs. They keep putting money in. They find what's working and they go with it hard, right? And so I relate to it like the stock market, but I like
Yeah.
fire too.
It's a slow burn. It's like, have you ever built a fire? It's like, it takes a lot. Well, it takes me a lot. It's like, you have to have the kindling, you have to have all the pieces, right? And you blow on it and all this stuff, like, right. You're putting a lot of effort into it on the front side to get it going. And then, it just keeps going. And I think that's the key to Pinterest is, and, when we talk about content, we're creating all this content for everywhere. Like we have to be everywhere these days. So that's why I'm such a fan of repurposing. But the thing that with Pinterest is the lifespan on Pinterest is so much longer. Like with Facebook, for example, it's assuming you can get in front of your people, but it has a very small window of opportunity. Like, we've been tracking these live shows. I'll give you a quick example. The visibility on the live shows, and it peters off about between 5 to 7 days after we've gone live.
Yeah.
And then if we were to take a piece of content and put it, well-designed piece of content on Pinterest, it gives us value for months and sometimes years. And you probably have stories where some of your clients are still, they shared something, 5 years ago or pinned something 5 years ago, and they're still getting bang from that pin. So that's the value I think that Pinterest brings to us. And we don't have to have a fan or a follower for it. They can find us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we've done case studies on that too. The difference between, we just did a case study on how much to pin, right? And 2 different accounts did 2 different pins per day amounts, and both of them got amazing results on their account. We did a study on, we put, and this might be going a little further over some people's heads, and I apologize if that's the case, but we'll put a little piece of code, UTM code for Google Analytics, and it just goes at the end of the URL, but that can track when we pin on what month. So when we go back into our analytics, say 4 months, 2 years, we can see the month and the year that pin was pinned and how long that shelf life was of that pin. And so we've done case studies on that and how long it's lasting for certain clients and things like that. So it is great to be able to see how when other things that we do in our marketing strategy have a shorter shelf life, this can either one, bring back that visibility to that short shelf life, or we can use this Pinterest as something to create longer shelf life for other content that we want as well too.
Yeah, I think that's why one of the reasons that Pinterest is so powerful. And it has been. It's just that we, haven't been. I think I'll say this loosely. I'm sure some have been more dedicated to it than others, like you have, definitely. But I think a lot of people are missing the boat on Pinterest, and I was in that boat until fairly recently, and I still feel like I'm not totally 100%. I feel like I'm climbing on the side of the boat sometimes, and because we're still not totally in alignment with all of our strategies. Can we talk a little bit? I know we've still got to pick our winners. So while we're doing that, can we talk a little bit about how a sales funnel could potentially work for someone, on leveraging the power of Pinterest, like that progression from top of funnel through?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a number of different ways that you can do this. In terms of sales funnels, if you start off with a landing page and ask for an email in exchange for something, so you're giving them something free, or you're giving them access to something, whatever it is, you can use Pinterest at the top of the funnel and target with different pictures and different key phrases to that landing page. Then they give their email and they go through it. On the back end, you can then retarget, just like with Facebook ads, you can retarget with Pinterest ads to get them to purchase something. You can also go straight to a purchase. So if you wanted to send from Pinterest to a product in the sales funnel, right? Maybe it's a sales page for one product. Maybe it's a landing page where you have multiple different products of rings, right? So that they can choose which design they really like. You take that pin image and do a couple of different things. Do a couple different product pins. Do a couple different text-only based pins. Do a couple different stock photo pins. Send them to that, see what works, and then keep doing that with different keywords that are cohesive with that funnel design.
So good. So, I think that lots of times when we think funnels, we think we have to have all the things in place before we, put a pin out there and we start, driving people to it. You don't. I mean, it could be as simple as getting people's email addresses with something that's value-based to them, and then following up with an email. You can even, if you have a product or a service that's higher ticket, you could send them to a phone call.
Yeah,
right?
I was going to say we could even go simpler, right? We could take a pin, go to Kim's Facebook Live that we're doing right now, have them comment with aha, and then Kim or Kim's VA follows up with them to ask them if they have any further questions in Messenger. There's your funnel, because when you're starting a conversation with someone, you don't have to have all the fancy things like landing pages or email captures. I definitely suggest that you capture emails in some fashion, but even if it's like, hey, you wrote an aha on my live stream, I'd love to give you X, Y, and Z. What's your email? Now you just captured an email without having a fancy landing page system, right?
Yeah.
There's a number of different ways to do it, but you have to think about funnel in terms of how are you connecting with people, not what are you selling them, right? People don't want to be sold to, they want to purchase from you. So how can you create that conversation that leads to them purchasing from you instead of just going straight to buy from me, buy from me?
Oh, so good. So good. You said something, and I always say serve, don't sell, but you said something, and I'm going to ask you to repeat it if I can. It was, people they don't want to be sold to. How'd you say that? I just want to.
People don't want to be sold to. They want to purchase from you.
There you go. Yes, so true. And people are looking to purchase. They absolutely are. They don't want let me give a great example of this. So we were looking for new living room furniture, and we go into the store, and there's like 3 salespeople lined up at the door. I'm like, I haven't even gotten in the door. Like, come on, y'all. Like, back up. Let me breathe. But no, one of them, and they take turns. It's like a used car lot, right? Okay, it's my turn. So, can I help you? I haven't even gotten in. I just want to walk in the door. I was there to buy.
Yeah.
I was there to buy, but I felt pressured when I first got there. I did not want to be sold to. So think about that in the context of how we put ourselves out there, right? It's exactly the same way. People are looking to buy. They want to buy from you, but they don't want to be sold to. So good. I loved how you said that.
You don't know people's personality in 3 seconds, right? So when you're walking in a store, you don't know if someone's an introvert or an extrovert. You could be completely turning them off where they don't ever want to come back to that store ever again because of that. It's the same thing online, right? Yeah. You don't know if they're going to get that, I don't really like that, that's not for me vibe by what you're doing online if you don't let them tell you who they are. And you're not going to be able to do that in that first 3 to 5 seconds if you're so in their face.
Yeah, it's so true. And one of the questions I noticed Laura's asking about a specific platform based on her niche, right? Like, is one platform better than another? And the reality is, in my opinion, I'd love your opinion, is that you can focus exclusively on one platform and do amazing things with it. If your time and effort is if you have limited resources, limited time, focusing in on one platform is totally okay. I think, honestly, it gets overwhelming to try to do all platforms. Speaking for myself, it's hard to focus on all of them and do all of them well. I think it needs to be probably no more than 2 to 3, in my opinion. But I think that saying one over another is not necessarily the right question. The right question, Laura, probably is, what time and resources do you have? Because both will produce results for you. Do you
Yeah. So yeah, I always go back to this, but mine is, I mean, specifically to Laura and to others out there is, what have you tried? What is working? It may not be working well, right? It's not exploding right now, but what is working? And then focus there and then add in something. I always like to tell people, because Pinterest is not social media, I can't answer the question of, is Pinterest better than Instagram? Is Pinterest better than Facebook? Because if you're doing well on Instagram, use Pinterest with it, right? Pinterest is search. You get analytics on the back end for that, so you can see what's going that way. And you want to be able to couple it, right? So if people are on Pinterest and they're searching, then that's where you want to be, because it's going to be different than if you're on Instagram and they're scrolling through and liking something, or they're scrolling through and finding you, right? So even though they're both visual platforms, the comparison is really different. And it's hard for me to say, yes, you should be on this one over this one, because I like you to couple them together and use them conjunctively.
So good. And, I think you can bounce off of platforms too, where just a strategy based, but one of the things that I thought was brilliant about what Laura just said is, it's traffic. And then, strategy based, how do you repurpose some of that content to drive traffic? It's eyeballs. Really marketing is about attention. And, where can we grab it? And then how do we leverage it? And then more importantly, after all of that, is how do we convert it? So it's a combination of things. So Laura, where can everybody find more, if they want to connect with you and they want to find out more about you, where's the spot, girl?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me online, 𝓴𝓷𝓸𝔀, or Laura Rike as any of my social handles. If you are right now kind of struggling and looking for like that next step for Pinterest, or how do you make it better for what you're trying to utilize it for, go to laurarike.com/toolkit. It has a number of different things to be able to kind of walk you through each step of how to make Pinterest profitable for your brand. And just, I guess, connect with me anywhere that you currently are on social media. So I'm on Facebook and Pinterest, of course. And then anywhere else that you're online, I also have used Restream as well to be able to post there too.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time and your amazing expertise. I really feel like we got we got into some things I really wanted to get into. We got into some more things that were even better, and there's so many things I still wanted to ask. But hey, that's okay. We'll have to do this again another time. But thank you for being here. I want to thank all of the listeners, whether you're watching in person or on the replay, for being here and being a part of this. Definitely connect with Laura, especially if you're really interested in Pinterest or you need to figure out if this is going to be the right thing for you. She's amazing, as you probably saw already. And I'm excited that I was able to connect you and bring her into your awareness. All right. So take care of yourselves. God bless. And we'll see you next week. Same time, same place. And our guest next week, I should have had this lined up, but I didn't. So let me tell you real quick who our guest is next week. Just a minute. I had to do this
I'll jump in while she's finding that too. She said, if she still has questions, if you guys still have questions, I'm here. So post them in the comments. I will come back. I know there were some questions we didn't get to answer, so I will come back in and answer them. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to put them in the comments and we'll come back and help.
Awesome. So our guest next week is Jamie Harmon O'Connor. Y'all, she has a really, really unique strategy that I've never heard of before. and you are going to get a lot of it revolves around Facebook, and she is a service provider who does this for others. And it's really, really interesting. When I heard about it, I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to pick her brain on this. So come listen in to me, pick her brain on how she does this. Is she amazing or what?
Jamie is amazing.
So we got her next week. You guys are going to be so blessed by that. So many amazing things. And we will see you next week. Take care of yourselves. God bless.